Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Disrespectful, written by Infernalism. Larry's Lagrange point was just your average dive bar. Imagine a small point in space where, due to the quirks of physics and gravity, things that float into that area stay there. It orbited a large gas giant that was being actively mined for its many gases, and so its patrons were of the rough and tumble variety. Miners, security, and the like. Larry was a former miner himself who won the right to the little spot in a poker game 15 years ago. The point, as it was called, was a collection of 3 large asteroids connected by some commandeered transportation tubes, and thanks to some illicit gravity generators, it had its own little gravity well and atmosphere. It was nothing special, but it was Larry's, and it was the best spot within a light year for getting smashed and smashing some faces. So naturally, on this lively Friday night, the miners and security were arguing politics and interstellar history. I'm telling you, you split-faced dunk, the Praxin hegemony is going to be the new power. Have you seen their ships? They're making use of some new anti-grav singularity for fuel source, and I've seen them go 10 minutes full power blaster fire, and they didn't slow a single bit. The crews prided themselves on staying atop of galactic affairs, which was in the midst of a 3-century turmoil after the collapse of the Gremlin Star Empire, due to some new biological plague that seemed to only affect the Gremlin. They were still around, but every year came new reports of a new Gremlin sector falling to plague and collapse, complete with 36 burgeoning empires invading and looting what they could. This would continue on until a new power rose to the top. The aforementioned split-faced dog, Trig, insisted that the Praxin were the next big dogs on the block. "Fuck you, Praxin! The screen invaded their whole world and..." The whole place erupted into laughter at that, bringing the disrespectful blather to a halt. It was almost like a ritual for galactic powers. The Serene invade, demand a ritualistic surrender, and then they leave without taking anything. The smarter empires prepare for it, clearing the way and giving the Serene no reason to do any real damage. Son, the Serene invade everyone's whole world. It's what they do. It's like a religious thing for them. Name one power that they haven't invaded and gotten to surrender from. The Terrans. No, fuck off. The Serene never invaded. A new crash came when one of the named Terrans got to his feet. It wasn't a Terran. It was a Serene. Imagine a warthog on 2 legs, slightly less elongated face, full tusks, fully armored, and nearly 50% replaced with military cybernetics. 8 feet tall and thick as a transport hauler. The Serene didn't use projectile weapons, and they compensated for this by having solid personal shields that dissipated energy blasts and drained kinetic energy from anything that impacted those shields. If you wanted to kill a Serene, you had to do it face to face, adding to their reputation and making it easier for the existing powers to justify a pointless surrender. The Terrans were a small group of traders and engineers out in one of the spiral arms, and they tended to stick to themselves. You didn't mess with them, and they didn't mess with you. They didn't invade worlds, and they stayed out of local politics entirely. Summed up, Terrans felt like there was enough galaxy for everyone, and saw no reason to fight for any of it. Hence the laughter and derision when the Terrans were mentioned as stopping the Serene. And yet, here was one of the very same Serene saying otherwise. Larry, being a businessman that he was, activated the overhead announcer. "Serene, you tell us a story and your tab is cleared." Shouts and cheers came along with that announcement. The whole point wanted to know this one. The Serene glared about at all of them before saying something in Serene that didn't translate before taking his seat again. When he spoke, the local mics caught it and filtered the Serene story through the room. "We found them waiting for us when we jumped into their system. Or tried to, anyways. They had established a network of jump destabilizers in a cloud surrounding their system, so we exited on the edge of what they called the Alt Cloud. They built stations throughout the cloud to protect the destabilizers. Our victory group wasn't enough to break through, so we had to call in for support. Twice. It was glorious. After shattering their defenses there, we moved inward and found that they'd established another layer of defense within the gas giant region. More destabilizers and more stations, and now more battleships. It took us 3 standard weeks to break through. 30 days. It wasn't glorious anymore. The Serene downed his drink and demanded another, taking full advantage of his imminently cleared tab to run it up a bit more. The whole time, they piped a never-ending stream of insults at us over the ship comms. Even when those were destroyed, we found other communication device automated to send out that stream of filth at us. We were at 5 Victory Group armies now, and we had decided that we would punish these Terrans when we finished conquering them. They'd defiled and blasphemed enough. The universe would be glad of our efforts. And due to their own defiance and pride, we set about pillaging their outer worlds for their resources. We filled the system behind us with mining ships and pillaging craft. So we continued inward. The next line of defense was their asteroid belt. They'd heavily mined their belt and left only a single gap for us to go through. We knew what to expect there, so we ignored the gap and threw 2 victory groups at the belt itself. They were destroyed, but opened enough of a hole for us to get through. The victory commander declared this a holy war, and 5 more victory groups joined us. It was the largest victory that we had ever seen assembled. We were honored to be there. After shattering their belt defenses, we moved in towards their final defenses. Their moon was the center point of those defenses. In the middle of those attacks, we found our ships being attacked from behind by automated mass drivers from hidden spots within their belt. More ships were brought in to intercept those asteroids and to backtrack them to their launcher. There was open talk of turning the conquered Terran homeworld into a rarely built temple world. Such was their heresy and disrespect. We shattered their moon into 1,000 pieces and spit upon their gods. Our leaders summoned even more victory groups, for it had been decided that we would not give them the honor of glorious death by hand. We would batter their world from afar. We would melt into a cinder, wipe away the filth, and rebuild it into a new world. Instead, we had the Terrans taunt us even more from the surface. They built scores, hundreds of city-sized complexes, devised and designed to defeat an invading army. Each city would have to be taken by hand if they wanted the glory of that victory, and they dared us to come and get that glory. We could not call ourselves serene if we ignored this challenge to our honor and to our gods. The holy war continued, and our ships descended. Every victory group in the Spiral Arm was called in, even with every serene that came to call. It would take years to break them and conquer their world. It was no longer a ritual, but a very challenge to our spirit. We would destroy them. 100 victory groups joined us and descended. Their world was split up among the groups, and honor demanded all be allowed to begin the assault at the same time. But I wasn't there. I was one of those that had failed to break through the Oort Cloud at the start of our crusade, so I was obliged to stay behind and watch the others retrieve my honor for me. In those moments before the assault officially began, the near-constant stream of slurs and insults and blasphemy that the Terrans had steadily bombarded us with abruptly came to a stop. All over the system, it all stopped at once. A new message was direct linked straight to the Crusade's flagship. directly to the Victory Commander. I don't know what it said, but moments later, their star went supernova. We heard the reports before we saw the flash, and so our ships were able to escape. Of the 137 victory groups in our Crusade formation, 17 victory groups escaped the supernova's shockwave. We reported back to Shreen, and we were told that the Crusade never happened. We were told by our leaders to never speak of it to other Shreen ever again. And since you're not Shreen, they can fuck off. I heard later that the Terrans were in another system now, not far from their old one, and were busily terraforming it to resemble their world that they had sacrificed. Officially speaking, the Serene do not consider the Terrans a worthy target for victory. But it happened. So let me tell you something. If you want to go to war with the Terrans, you better be prepared to fight a group willing to destroy everything that they have to deny you victory. Not even to win, but just to see you lose. With that, the Serene went silent and finished his drink. The conversation moved on to sports, and the Serene left, his tab cleared. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I would just quickly like to give thanks to our Tier 5 members: Elithia, Barky, Feudicuel, Meridian 117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albard and Gusta, Savage Patch Papa, and Lord Azrakal.